What's up, guys? Welcome back. Mohawk6 here. So I'm going to talk today about my rogue build for Diablo 4. This build has gotten me through soloing all the way up to my current level, which is 31. It works really well for mobs. It works pretty well for elites, but there are some things that I do change when I go up against like a boss fight or something. So first, your basic skill, I went with, so my rogue is range. So I use crossbow or bow. So for my basic skill, I use the forceful arrow. This does a really good job of if enemies are getting too close to you while you're recharging, you can knock them back really easily. It also, the third cast makes them vulnerable. The damage is okay, but it's really just good at keeping those enemies away from you as you're recharging your energy. So the path I picked for it, so this one you have to, every third forceful has an additional crit chance, 15%. And then it also knocks, so this is the one that knocks back the enemies. So by using this one, like I said, the enemies that are getting close to you, it knocks them back. And if they hit into another enemy, then they both fall down. That's the core ability, so you have to push them back, it's nice and far. And if they run into, so it's really useful if you're getting overwhelmed. For my core skill, I went with the rapid fire. I like this one a lot. The enemies tend to line up. If you can kind of kite them around and get them in the area you want to, then you can just kind of spam this for quite a bit. It's only 25 energy, so it's not as bad as some of the other ones. And then obviously put one into here. But let's talk about, so real quick, so each subsequent arrow from the rapid fire has a 5% increased crit chance, up to 25% for the fifth arrow. Gain 15 energy per cast of rapid fire when damaging a vulnerable enemy. Now, if we go back to our forceful arrow, every third hit makes them vulnerable. So when you're fighting elites especially, or I'm sorry, elites or a boss fight, and you're out of energy, spam your forceful arrow until that enemy is vulnerable, and then you can go back to your rapid fire, and because of that, you're going to get at 15% back. So for my agility skill, I went with the caltrops. This one's really helpful for if you're just exploring or you're just doing your general questing or anything like that. It casts a pretty wide area and it slows enemies down by, at this rank, it's 57%. It also double the amount against vulnerable enemies, sorry. So this all kind of plays off the vulnerability of your enemies, right? So, and it does some pretty decent damage. So if you have like real low level guys, like the bats or those little annoying flies, you can just get them all in one area and drop caltrops, and usually kills them all pretty quickly. I also have 2 charges of this, based off the rank. So, again, I really like using this for when I run into a big mob of people. What I'll usually do, I'll talk about it in a second actually. I'll talk about my sequence. So for my Subterfuge ability, I just went with the concealment. It's a great way to just escape if you need to. So if you're fighting bosses and he's got a bunch of mobs around him, or you run out of energy, or whatever it is, you pop this, you got 4 seconds to get away. What I'll usually do is I'll string this together with my main ability, which I'll go into in a second. So for my imbuement, for regular questing, even up to like elites, not so much boss fights, but elites, I stick with the shadow imbuement. So it imbues your weapons. You get 2 charges of this. So you imbue your weapon, then you could hit 2 of your core abilities. So if you get a big group of people, you drop your caltrops. That'll drop most of their health down. You imbue your weapon, and then you hit your rapid fire on them, and you'll just see them start kind of exploding really quickly. Or at least turning them vulnerable, which is really helpful. 15% increased strike chance against injured enemies. Doesn't really help me. I don't have much injury. Primary explosion makes enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds, so more vulnerability for your enemies. The other skill I did put it into was poison imbuement, and this is for like big, long boss fights, because the shadow one it has a lot to deal with that explosion that comes at the end. You see the explosion damage 367 to the other enemies around it. But when you're fighting like a solo boss fight, they don't really have many other spawns or adds, so go with the poison one for the bosses. and it will help melt them down a lot quicker than just trying to get them down with the shadow. For my ultimate skill, I went with the shadow trap or the death trap. 50-second cooldown, but it's great, like I said, to string this with your concealment. So concealment, shadow trap down, pulls them all in. So you run out of energy, you pop your concealment, you run into the area with everyone, you drop this down, and then it will also pull enemies towards the death trap when it's active, and if it kills the enemy, the cooldown gets reduced too. So it's really helpful, like I said, if you run out of energy, or you might be on low on health or something, you just want to finish them off. So that's what I'm at so far. I'm going to put some gameplay in here, but if this stuff helps, you guys have any other questions, let me know. Here's some of the other stuff I did though. Increase damage to healthy or injured enemies, just 1 point in there. Immune skills, gain 3% critical strike chance. And I got one down here. After using the ultimate skill, restores 25 energy right off the bat. So you use your ultimate skill, like I said, if you're out of energy, and then it'll help restore it as well. Weapon mastery, so I get an increase, 5% increase in critical strike if I'm using a crossbow, and 4% increase damage to vulnerable enemies if I'm using the bow. So all this stuff helps me. Like I said, I'll let the gameplay kind of speak for itself, but let me know what you think. I hope this helps, guys. Mohawk6 signing off. And obviously use